So, what we're going to go over today is governments around the world are collapsing, and it seems like all at once right now. We're seeing France, Germany, we're seeing what's happening in Canada. Just a letter came out from their finance minister. They're beginning to, they're thinking that Justin Trudeau's government might collapse or he may resign very soon. And we have a lot of other stories about the European economy, how things are really starting to struggle there. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I can see everyone's joining now, so it's fantastic to have you all here. So first things first, let's go over the European economy. So we got Bosch, and they have cut 7,000 jobs amid financial struggles. But this is just one company that's doing this right now. So Bosch, the German automotive components giant, has announced plans to lay off 7,000 employees due to ongoing economic and business challenges, and the cuts will primarily affect positions in Germany with a focus on the company's automotive supply sector. So we've all seen the big slowdown that's going on in Germany right now. German economy is weakening. The auto industry is there's weakening. They're trying to get more competitive with all their Asian automotive companies coming onto the market, trying to get costs down. Now, Germany's the third largest economy in the world. So if Germany goes down, that's going to affect the whole European Union. And the whole European Union combined together will have a big effect on the global economy. So that's not all, everyone. That's just the first one. But we can see here, Group, they're going to cut 11,000 jobs as the struggling steel unit is facing big issues. So they plan to reduce the labor force by 40% this decade, and a move that would shrink business that has lost billions of euros to global steel glut and rising energy prices. So that's exactly right. We've seen all the issues with the energy crisis since the Russian and Ukraine war break out in Europe. Germany used to get a lot of gas and energy from Russia, but now that's cut off. It has been affecting their economy big, especially their manufacturing industry, making it more expensive. So the Steel Division's board has proposed cutting 5,000 jobs while moving another 6,000 positions off the books by selling operations or shifting people to external service providers, the company said on Monday. Now they aim to lower personal costs by about 10% on average over the coming years. So that's right there, that's 18,000 jobs gone in the steel and automotive sector. Now, why is this happening? Well, I think it could be to do with the geopolitical situation in Germany. So we can see here, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz loses confidence vote. So his government is in big trouble, and it's not just his. We're seeing this happen all over the European Union. So Scholz called Monday vote and had expected to lose it, but they calculated that triggering an early election was his best chance of reviving his party political fortunes. It comes around 2 months after the collapse of Scholz's three-party coalition government, which left the embattled chancellor leading a minority administration. So that's one, Germany, but we've just got a downgrade on France. So Moody downgrades France credit rating over political turmoil. So that's right, there's political turmoil in Germany right now. Their economy is weakening, and also France, they've just been downgraded. So the agency's warning of weak public finances and underlying challenges facing new Prime Minister, this guy here, because France is actually over the European Union's limit of their debt ratio. And we'll go into exactly how indebted they really are, and they're just going to get more and more in debt. So in an unscheduled announcement early on Saturday morning, the rating agency lowered France's long-term issuer rating from a AA2 to a AA3, blaming political instability that will make it difficult to tackle the national deficit. and France finances will be sustainably weakened in the coming years, it said. But this isn't just France, everyone. We're seeing governments around the world, the US included as well, they've just been piling into debt since COVID, and they've just been increasing the deficits again and again and again. But they can't keep doing this forever, everyone. You know, you may think they can just kick the can down the road, and they can do it for a little bit, but eventually, you know, people are going to want their money back. Eventually, people are going to need their money for something, and they're going to call up, and these governments are going to be in big, big trouble, or they're not going to see the growth that they once did because they won't have the money in the coffers there to print their way out of the next financial crisis. So there is now very low probability that the next government will be able to sustainably reduce the size of the fiscal deficits beyond next year. As a result, we forecast that France's public finances will materially weaken over the next 3 years compared to October 2024. So it's going to put more pressure on their 10-year borrowing costs, which is above the 3% this year, an additional margin that it pays over the benchmark. German debt is at its highest since the Eurozone debt crisis. That's a big statement there, everyone. Germany's debt is at its highest since the Eurozone debt crisis, and I think we're going to continue to see debt crisis. And someone just said, World Economic Forum agenda. Well, we are seeing a lot of these politicians that are part of the World Economic Forum, they are resigning or their governments are collapsing. Maybe people are catching on who these politicians are really working for. So after President Emmanuel Macron nominated long-term ally Bayrou as Prime Minister on Friday, he said in his acceptance speech that he would make tackling the debt burden a priority. Yeah, they all say that. I don't think they will. Because look at this, France has a deficit of 5.5% in 2023, the second highest in the Eurozone after Italy, according to the EU figures. And Moody expects this to reach 6.3% in 2025. So they're the second highest country that's in debt. Italy's doing it worse than them. But the country's GDP is, their debt to GDP is 113%. And that's going to rise to 120% in 2027. So things are only going to get worse, everyone. And again, like I was talking about earlier, they've already been reprimanded by the European Commission for breaching annual borrowing limit of 3% of the GDP as part of efforts by Brussels to bring debt levels under control across the EU. So those just joining, big layoffs in Germany, in the steel sector and in the automotive sector. The German Chancellor had a vote of no confidence. We're seeing France, their credit rating has got downgraded. And why is this happening, everyone? Well, we've got a few things here. I'm pretty sure you can agree. There's public anger and discontent with the European Union is growing across Europe and is manifested in a number of ways. So there's been increased support for Eurosceptic parties in 2024, and the combined vote share of hard and soft parties was 27%, up from 4% in 2002. So I see a lot of people aren't happy with the current standard, the two-party system. They're wanting to have more options these days with just voting for the two biggest parties. Declining participation in elections, people are less likely to vote in elections. Low citizen engagement, distrust of the EU. More people are distrustful of the EU. I think that's probably because there's a lot more decentralized media. It's not just the mainstream media. People getting the information now. They're getting it from other sources that will tell you what it really is, what's really happening, rather than the government-controlled mainstream media or corporate media, should I say. Support for extreme political options. Well, I don't think things are getting extreme. I think the current politicians have gone extreme to one end, and the people in the middle are saying, whoa, things are getting crazy here. Let's just pull back a minute. There's economic decline, local and economic industrial decline. We're seeing areas with lower employment rates and less educated workforce, regional inequalities, and identity crisis and cultural conflicts. as we can see here. There are significant drivers of discontent. So that's exactly right. They've tried to push the, diversity is our strength, and diversity is good to an extent, but when you flood a country with people that don't want to join that culture, become part of that culture, and there's no social cohesion, and then all these cultures start to fight one with another, we can see it's not quite working right now. They need to do targeted immigration and do it slowly, not at a time when most major economies are facing housing shortages. I know in the EU, Canada, the US, Australia, we don't have enough houses. They are flooding illegal migrants into these countries. There's not enough housing. They're putting these migrants before their own citizens, and people are saying enough is enough. Let's have common sense, targeted immigration, do it at a time when there's not a housing crisis, when there's not a cost of living crisis. But we all know why they're doing this. They're doing it so it keeps wages down and it makes the price of everything go up. So then that way, one day you will own nothing and be happy. They all told you what they were going to do in 2020. Most people fell asleep, forgot about it, but they're doing it right before our very eyes. One day it will be impossible for the average citizen to buy a house, mark my words. And that's what they want. They want you to be a renter. They want you to always need to work. They don't want you to be financially independent. Now, look at this. EU is facing existential risks without investment. So there's been a report here to just, go on about how the EU faces challenges unless it vastly improves investments and reforms industrial policy. A report ordered by the European Commission has warned is pretty much going on about how there's wide-ranging and long-awaited review, which is led by former European bank chief Mario. And he said an increase in spending of about 800 billion euros. And European leaders were told they need to be forced to choose between climate, economic, and foreign policy goals if the EU does not become more productive. We'll see about that. But he's pretty much saying that the EU is not competing enough with the world right now. The spending recommendations in the report are described as unprecedented, and they are equivalent to 5% of the bloc's GDP and more than double the post-World War II Marshall Plan. So we'll have to see how this goes, but it is right that productivity is down. The same happening with Australia, Canada. They're trying to be more productive, but the thing is, it's just so much red tape. They're making it so hard for people to do business, people to get ahead, to start, small businesses, because in Europe, Australia, Canada, there is so much red tape for starting businesses. And so Europe's centre is losing on immigration. So again, immigration is a big issue in Europe right now. I've seen videos of France where it's just completely changed. You wouldn't recognise France anymore. I've seen it in London. People, of course, they'll say, well, you're racist if you don't support immigration. That's what they use to gaslight you, because, again, they want cheap labour in the country for the people in power. It's more votes for them, so then they can stay in power for longer. And it keeps the cost of everything going up, so it keeps you a wage slave, and that's what they want. Because we're all seeing crime is going up. Obviously, people are fed up with the crime that's going on. And again, they're trying to say there's no crime, there's no issue. I think the European Union Commission put out reports saying that with immigration going up, this has no correlation with crime going up, when we all know that's not true. And that's why people are getting upset. And that's why the governments that are in power right now that are, ignoring the crime issue, their governments are collapsing. And so how dependent are EU member states on energy imports? They're obviously very dependent. The EU as a whole has a dependency rate of 57.5% in 2020, and the situation varied greatly among member states. Estonia had a 10.5% dependency rate, but look at this, Germany, I'll actually go ahead and make this bigger here so you guys can see, had a dependency rate of 63.7%, and Greece 81.4%. Okay, So they're obviously very dependent, and now with energy prices going up through the roof, with them not buying energy from Russia, the situation is getting worse. And so now there's another report: is France heading for an economic storm? So the Prime Minister said his deficit reduction plan in October, promising to bring down the public deficit around 6% of GDP to 3% in 2029. I don't think that's all happening. They all say they're going to reduce the deficit. You know, Janet Yellen in the US, she said she was going to reduce the deficit. They massively increased the deficit. But of course, now she, talking to the Trump administration, well, now you guys need to reduce the deficit. They're always wanting to pass the buck on to the next person. And another report here: German economy expected to remain weak in 2025, Institute says. So 3 economic initiatives provide forecast for Germany. IFW, German economy expected to stagnate next year, and this year economy is likely to shrink by 0.2% overall. Now again, this is how they avoid the technical recession, because they're saying, well, we've got growth of 0.2 or 0.5 or even at 1%. But if you factor in inflation, you factor in immigration on an individual basis, this is why the individuals, the people are so angry, because you are going backwards, because the cost of things are going up. Because of mass immigration, your wages aren't going up as fast as they should, and your standard of living is declining because all the services around you are overrun. The health services are overrun. And again, this is why the governments around the world are collapsing, because the people are saying enough is enough. Now, again, why I'm talking about Germany and why their economy is so important. So Germany is a major force in global economy, affecting the world in many ways. Germany is the world's 3rd largest exporter and the largest in Europe. Its top exports include vehicles, machinery, chemical goods, and electronic products. So Germany is a top destination for investors, attracting companies with its central European location. Germany is a leader in the green energy, producing more renewable energy than any other country. Well, obviously their energy independency is not looking good, so maybe they need to look at some other alternatives. Germany has a strong social security system that makes up about 25% of its GDP. Obviously, that's a strain on the economy. Germany is a leader in applied research with practical industrial value. And Germany hosts many of the world's largest trade events, including Medicaid and all these other ones here. Germany's United States, this is why it's very important for the United States. Germany is the United States' largest European trading partner and the 6th largest market for US exports. So again, if Germany is affected, the US is going to be affected. If the number 1 and number 3 economy around the world is affected, we all need to pay attention. Now, I've got even more stories here. So that's the Eurozone, but I'll go ahead and bring up these other stories of what's going on in Canada, because things are getting crazy there as well. Just give me one moment while I bring this up here. Let's see, what tab did I have it on? No, not that one. Let me bring it up. Oh, that's strange. It's not coming up. Not that one. Thanks for the super chat there, Frank. And what do you guys all think about this? What's your predictions? I'll try close another tab and see if it comes up. I got a plan now. I'll open on this one. Yeah, we've just got some breaking news Just came out a few hours ago about what's happening in Canada. So let's see. Yeah, here we go. So Justin Trudeau, Canada's most famous prime minister, that's doing a great job right now, according to Canadians. What do you guys think? Is on the brink of resigning as the Canadian prime minister. So he's been heckled by the public as speculation mounts that he's under fire, and the Canadian PM is on the brink of resigning. So let's dive a bit deeper into this report. So he's considering his options as leader, according to CTV News, after finance minister. This is the girl that, the lady, should I say, that froze all people's bank accounts that supported the truckers' protest. She wanted to freeze all crypto transactions, bank transactions, if you donated to the truckers' movement or the protests, you were considered a terrorist. So yep, she resigned. Good riddance to her. She revealed she would quit the cabinet, citing disagreement over spending priorities and how to address Donald Trump's tariff threats. So the big, mean, bad orange man with the mean tweets, he's coming into office and everybody is running scared, or at least she is. So Mr. Trudeau appeared for a Liberal Party fundraiser at the Canadian Museum of History at 8 p.m. on Monday, where he thanked the MPs and supporters. It's an absolute privilege of my life to serve you as Prime Minister, he said. And Canada is the best country on earth, but it's not perfect. That's why I wake up every single day thinking about how to make this nation better work for all Canadians. Well, do you think he works for Canadians? He puts Canadians first. Is there any Canadians in the chat that can give me their opinion here? Or is he putting the World Economic Forum agenda first? And, you know, all people money launder their money into the property market and inflate the property market there, because Canada's housing market is crazy. Sorry, Sydney beats out you just, but Canada's housing market is just behind Australia's with most unaffordable. He's entered his vehicle yelling, "You failed." People reported, "You failed Canada, you ruin our country, you're done, walk away." Wow, it's a pretty big statement there. Queen of the North, here, he's a globalist all the way. Yeah. So she agrees. "Have a good night, sir," Mr. Trudeau replied. So he's not denying it. Just have a good day. My work here is done. Miss Freeland announced she was stepping down in a bombshell letter shared on social media on Monday morning. So this is the letter she sent to the Prime Minister. Yeah, just dropping a bombshell. Later, bolt, I'm out. And obviously, he's not happy. Some people are saying this planned, he knew about it. Some people are saying he didn't know about it and this is the end for him. All will be revealed very, very shortly. So it says here, on Friday you told me you no longer want me to serve you as your finance minister. You offered me another position in the cabinet, she wrote. So, okay. Did he want to go? And then she's like, "You can't fire me, I quit. Upon reflection, I've concluded that the only honest and viable path for me is to resign from the cabinet." Let's go ahead and play the world's smallest violin there, everyone. "To be effective as a minister must speak on behalf of the Prime Minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you make clear that I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it." She added, "For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada." So is he maybe thinking of running for Prime Minister, because she was Deputy Prime Minister, or maybe she's going to run in future. The letter has sent shockwaves through Canadian politics. It comes as Mr. Trudeau's Liberal government trails the Conservative opposition in the polls. So I think she knows this guy here, Mr. Trudeau, is cooked, and it's a sinking ship, and everybody's jumping ship. So Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party NDP, the Liberals' coalition partner in government, has called for him to resign. So what do you think? Should he resign, or what's going to happen? Is he humble enough to resign? So the PM addressed in an emergency meeting on Monday evening. Mr. Freeland's letter came hours before she was due to deliver an economic update to Parliament that was expected to show a large increase in the country's deficit. Surprise, surprise. What was I just talking about in France and Germany? Huge deficits. Governments are done. They can't keep on printing like this, and the party's over. Sorry, guys. Need a drink of water there. I'm yapping too much. What we are seeing is the government of Canada itself is spiraling out of control right before our eyes and at the very worst time, Conservative leader Pierre told reporters in Ottawa. Today, mere hours before Trudeau's finance minister was to deliver a full economic update, I think that meant to say full, that was expected to smash through her already massive deficits targets, she announced she no longer has confidence in the Prime Minister. So what do you guys think about this? Is it long overdue? But today, in mere hours, they were expected to learn that it was much higher than that, threatening our social programs and our fiscal stability, right in the middle of a potential trade war, he said. Well, that's right. You know, what did Donald Trump say? You can always become the 51st state of the United States. I don't know how Canadians feel about that. The Department of Finances has since unveiled a long-awaited economic statement revealing a deficit of Canadian 61 billion, 68 billion. I think that would be Australian. I'm not sure you or US. 61.9 billion. At least we know Canadian. In a letter, she said Canada needed to take the US president-elect's aggressive economic nationalism, including threats of a 25% tariff, extremely seriously. Well, of course, they need to take it seriously. And maybe countries should start putting their citizens first, and people will be happy. Obviously, that's what Trump's doing. That's why he won the election, because people are sick of their politicians not putting them first, putting foreign and other countries' interests before their own. So you can see here, he's sweating. He knows his time is up. The clock's ticking. That means keeping our fiscal powder dry today so we have reserves we may need coming for a tariff war. Well, I don't know how much reserves they can have left after all the amount of huge stimulus they spent during COVID. That means not doing, these costly political gimmicks, which they'll keep on doing forever. That's what they always do, which we can ill afford and which make Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. No Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach, and they know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. Well, okay, why didn't you do that for the past 4 years? You're only worrying now. You should have worried about that before. Or because she's a WEF member as well, maybe this is the WEF's plan to try to, take a stab at Trump. Mr. Trudeau travelled to meet with Mr. Trump at his Florida state Mar-a-Lago late last month in an attempt to head off the tariff threats. The incoming president has threatened both Canada and Mexico with a 25% tariffs if these two countries don't stop what he called the flow of drugs and immigrants across the American northern and southern borders. Well, that seems like a fair deal. Why wouldn't these countries want to stop drugs and illegal immigrants? I think that's why people are voting for them or voted for Trump, because they're sick of what's happening. So that's the update on what's going on around the world with Europe, with Canada. What do you all think about this? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. You're awesome. I'll see you all in the next